Making scrubs for the NHS is relatively straightforward. I'm going to start by showing you the whole outfit. Both garments are fully reversible, so there is a pocket on the right hand side of the top, but if you turn it inside out, you will also find another pocket. All the seams are flat felled seams, so that there are no raw edges on the inside. I will explain later how to do a flat felled seam if you aren't familiar with it. The top has yoke pieces on the left and right. Each piece is edged with a straight strip. These two pieces overlap where they join the lower front. The back neck is bound off with a piece of bias binding. This is colour coded to indicate size. The hem on the sleeve and bottom edge are turned over twice and stitched. The trousers also have a pocket on the right hand side, and like the top, this is mirrored on the inside to make it reversible. The pockets have the same colour-coded bound edge to indicate size. The seams are all flat-felled seams. The top edge is turned over twice to create a channel for the drawstring. There are two buttonholes for the drawstring to come through. These are not repeated on the inside. So here we have all the pieces for the top that you should have in your bag. Two sleeves, two yoke pieces with the edge strips, one lower front piece, one back and two pockets. And for the trousers, two legs and two pockets. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to do a flat felled seam. I've got my two pieces of fabric with right sides together. You have a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, so put the fabric under the foot, lining the edge up with your 5/8 mark on the stitch plate. Sew your seam. Cut away one edge of the seam allowance. Then open up the seam and fold the uncut side of the seam allowance over twice, encasing the cut side. Top stitch down the folded edge. Now let's get sewing. First we're going to make the top. Take the two pockets and turn over the top edge 1/2 inch twice. Machine stitch. Turn in and iron all the other edges on the pocket by about 3/8 of an inch. Lay out the lower front piece right side up and place the first pocket on the left hand side. Place the top corner of the pocket 3 inches from the side and 8.5 inches up from the bottom. Don't forget the second pocket is going on the inside. When you stitch the pocket on, do a small zigzag at the beginning and end just to strengthen the edge of the pocket. Now get your two front yoke pieces. Iron in the edges of the two binding strips and then iron them in half. If you iron it so the top half is slightly narrower, you have a better chance of sewing it without missing the underneath edge. Line the strip up with the front yoke so you have the same amount of seam allowance sandwiched between the two edges of the strip, and then machine it on. Lay out your lower front piece and line up the two front yoke pieces. You will find 3 notches in the top of the lower front piece. These indicate the centre front and where the two yoke pieces meet the lower front. Flip over the two front yokes and line them up with the notches. I found a pin at each end and the centre front helped here. Once you've machined, cut away the edge of the lower front piece and create your flat felled seam. I found it helped to also cut away the seam allowance of the binding strip that will go inside the seam. Get the back body piece and bind off the back neck. Again, if you iron the binding in half with the top side slightly narrower than the bottom, you'll find it easier to sew on with one row of stitching. Next is shoulder seams, again a flat felled seam. Cut away the front edge, and when you top stitch, do a little zigzag at the neck edge to strengthen. Now the sleeves. There is a notch at the centre of the sleeve to match up with the shoulder seam. You might find it easier to pin these in. Cut away the body side of the seam when creating your flat fell. Then sew up the side seam all the way from the end of the sleeve to the hem of the body. Cut away the back side of the seam for the flat fell. You have 1 inch seam allowance for the sleeve hem and the body hem. Turn over 1/2 inch twice. That's the top done. Now onto the trousers. Firstly, edge your pockets. As we are binding these, the first thing to do is cut off 1 inch seam allowance from the top of the pocket. Bind off in the same way as the back neck. Now work out which is your right leg piece. You should find 2 notches close together on the waist edge to help you identify the back. You will also see that the curve on the back crutch is much longer than on the front. So place the top of the pocket 5 inches down from the waist edge and 3 inches in from the crutch seam. If you're making the extra large size, bring the pocket in 4 inches from the crutch seam. Place the second pocket on the inside of the second leg with the same spacing. Machine on the pockets, remembering the zigzag at the beginning and the end. Fold the trouser legs in half, putting right sides together, and sew the inside seam 5/8 of an inch from the edge. Cut away the back side of the seam and fold in your other edge. The top stitching on this seam is a bit difficult, but you can do it. Start from the crutch edge and sew down towards the hem. Now turn both trouser legs right side out and sew up the crutch seam. A pin at the inside leg seam is helpful. Again, cut away one side, fold the other and top stitch. Now you need to sew 2 1-inch long buttonholes, 1.5 inches in from the centre front seam and 1 3/4 inches down from the top edge. When you've done the buttonholes, turn over the top edge twice to create the drawstring channel. The first time by 3/8 of an inch and the second by 1 inch, and stitch. Hem the trouser, turn over twice by 1/2 inch. Cut a ribbon for your drawstring the length of the waist channel plus 12 inches and thread through. Stitch over this at the centre back so it can't come out. That's it, you're finished. Thank you for volunteering. We really appreciate your help.